Although I've made many multi-strand projects on this channel, one thing I've never made is my own multi-strand findings. It took a bit of experimenting, but I figured it out. Stay tuned to see how you can make your own. Hi there, Sandy here. Welcome to another Friday Findings video at keepsakecrafts.net. So for an upcoming multi-strand bracelet, I decided I wanted to make my own findings out of wire. So the first thing I did was I got out some paper and started drawing them out because I had a picture in my head of how it was going to work, but I had to draw it out to make sure I understood the wire path and just how it was going to work. I'm not much of a drawer, but just a simple sketch on some scrap printer paper worked. And then what I did was I took one of my sketches and cut it out, and I can put this directly on my wire jig to get the pegs placed properly. And what I have here is the artistic wire jig. I haven't used it much, and I really like using it. It's fun because you can make multiples and repeat them over and over again. So I'll probably make more than just the two that I need for this project. I'll make several while I'm at it. Now this isn't super expensive, but it's metal and it's a little bit nicer than the plastic one that I've used in other videos. So the first thing I did was I poked a hole in the center one and just found a hole on the jig and poked one of the pegs through. So that's in the center. So we'll just... What's nice is that this set comes with actually 4 different sized pegs. There's these big whopping ones. These are great for making ear wires, all kinds of different things. These ones, they're not quite so big. And then you have to look closely at these, and you can see that there are 2 different sizes of the smaller pegs. So then I just sort of looked at where my next one would be and just stabbed a peg through there. And then kind of lifted up and saw, oh, alright, so we skipped one here. To put that one there. So I'm going to get rid of the paper now. So it looks like I'm just skipping one, and there's my 3. And I'll swap that out with one that actually matches. And then put one here. Yeah, here for the loop that would attach your, that you would attach your hook or your clasp to. And I got out some inexpensive, just some 22 gauge. This is finer than what I'm going to use, but you might as well use something that's easy to manipulate so you can kind of practice and play. And I'll just use it right off the spool. And I've got my little picture here. So the idea is that you'll end up with 2 loops here where the connection is, and then just 1 loop on each of these sides. So you start with a little extra tail. And I quickly realized that wasn't going to work. Oh, that's right, I forgot. There's also these little things which are handy dandy. Let's get these out of the way. These just secure your pegs on the back. If you have them all in a line, so you can stick your finger on them, you can do that and flip it over. Otherwise, you just have to reach up from the back and pop those on. And if you put a lot of pressure on them, they will pop off, but it just helps to have them there. All right, let me start over. I don't know where I was. Good idea to straighten your wire first. More on that in a minute. All right. So back to starting my loop here. Now if I want my loop to go the right way, can you see the problem? This is not shaped like my little picture. And this might work actually. You could use this, but this wasn't what I sketched. Let's see, so you have 2 loops up here and 1 around each of those. But what I have for these, instead of this shape, is a long teardrop loop. That could be an interesting multi-strand finding, for sure. You could do something with that, definitely. But it wasn't what I sketched out. So what I realized was I needed to add another peg. Oh, this one I need to throw out because it doesn't fit. Goodbye. And I keep picking it up and being aggravated by it. There we go. That looks good. Just like that. For that little bump out there. And now you'll see this works much better. So again, we'll start here. But now I can go around this and then around each of these loops. And I'm doing this very badly. You need to take the time to pull these all nice and tight and make them fit neatly. But what you end up with is something more like this, doing it this way. But I realize that that is way too big. I want my pegs closer together. Now if you look carefully at the board, if you work at right angles to the edges of the board, the holes are actually going on a diagonal across the board. So if I want them to be closer together, and yes, I have to turn it because that's just how my brain works, you can use the pegs this way. Set them up the exact same way. So here's one, skip one, put one, skip one, put one, and one here, and then I think I'll use a slightly larger one up here. And what you end up with when you wrap on this one is this, and so you can see the difference. This has much nicer proportions. So if it's not working going at one angle, try going on the diagonal where the holes are actually spaced more closely together. Now you can work right off the spool, but with the 20 gauge wire that I'm going to use for my finished project, it's a little stiff for that. So what you can do is make a guesstimate about how much wire you're going to use. So if I look at this and I say, I think that's going to use maybe 10 inches, what I would do is take this wire and measure it and use a Sharpie marker to mark it at maybe, I'd overestimate a bit, 12 or 13 inches. And this is a great way to do it without wasting wire. So here's my wire and my ruler, and I'm just going to mark that at 12 inches. Leave yourself maybe a 2-inch tail because it's a whole lot easier to have a little bit to hold on to. And go ahead and wrap. And I'll show you this more when I do it with the 20 gauge, but it is easier with this one. You want to keep your wraps right on the board as much as possible. Of course, as you're looping around, you have to come up. So take a tool like these nylon jaw pliers that won't mar your wire. And then see, for each wrap, give it a good tug. And I'm actually going, no, not that way, this way. Along the board, parallel to the board, you want your tug to be. And then keep it low, is what I keep telling myself. Keep it right down to the board. Not a good idea to use your nails all the time. The nylon jaw pliers are much better. So now I've got that. I'm going to give it a good tug to make that loop nice and consistent. And then another. And if it starts creeping up, of course that's going to take up length and make your things not the right size. So use your tool to press them down right up against the board. Pull on it nice and firm. That way you have nice, small, tight, round loops that are just the size you want them to be. There we go. So although the jig is there, you do have to do some of the work and some of the thinking. You take a little bit of care to get things to come out nice. They won't just automatically. So now I'm going to trim that pretty close. I'll leave a little excess. Find my Sharpie mark. There it is. And that's at, 5.5. That tells me I have 6.5 inches of wire here. So I can use that every time. And it's nice because you can cut a piece and straighten it and not be wasting your good wire. This is definitely a tool that requires a little bit of practice and patience to get the hang of it. But once you do, you'll be churning out whatever findings it is that you've designed. You can make them time after time. So let me cut here, what was it? What did I say? 6.5 inches of wire. And it's always a good idea to straighten it. This helps make sure your piece is strong. We'll do the exact same thing that I just showed you, but with the heavier gauge wire. That will be our finished piece. And because it's heavier gauge wire, it's heavier, it's harder. So use your tools. I like to use the nylon jaw pliers because they won't mar the wire, and get a grip on that and really muscle it into place. There we go. See, now that wire is nice and tightly wrapped around that peg. And then we'll go back this way. Push it down and then grab it, and when you're pulling on it, let's see if I can tilt this a little to show you. You want to pull on it parallel to the board. And see how that just straightened out right here in between those lines? And now I can wrap it around that peg and just keep it as low as you possibly can the whole way through. Oh, that sometimes happens. It's no big deal. You can just slide it right back on. That usually happens because you're pulling up and at an angle rather than parallel to the board. So I really want to get that loop nice and tight around that peg. And then I'll go around the next one. Same thing. Pull it nice and tight. Push it down. Almost done. Ooh, that's close. Cut it a little close there. All right, maybe cut a little bit more extra next time. In there, and now pop that off. If some pegs come with it, that's okay. Now you want to take your nylon jaw pliers and just squeeze the whole thing to flatten and even it out. And then what you have here are 2 loops, and that will help keep the thing. Now here I'm not going to be able to use this one as I've got don't have quite enough wire. So I'll show you on one I already finished. There's 2 loops, and what you're going to need to do is open each of them and trim that wire, and you won't be trimming it at a 90-degree angle to the wire itself. You want to trim it so that it's perpendicular to this loop of wire that it's touching, so that when you twist it closed, it meets with a nice join. And you want to do that for both of them. Now, I wouldn't recommend hammering this flat because there's so many twists and crossovers. It's just going to be really hard not to create weak points wherever it crosses over. So I've got just a sandbag and a bench block and a nylon hammer, and between the squeezing with the nylon jaw pliers and just a little bit of hammering, now this is the point where it'll come apart. You can see I'm pulling on that, you probably can't tell, pretty hard, and it's hardly coming apart at all. If you need to, you can hammer these side pieces a little bit more. I'm kind of angling this a little because I'm trying not to hit that crossover point much, because it will make it weak there. And now, ooh, look how much stronger that is. I'm pulling just as hard as I was. And here you have your multi-strand pieces custom made. You probably won't have to look for long to be able to tell the first one I made where I wasn't pulling with a tool. You could see this one is a little different shape. These holes aren't perfectly round. This loops up here instead of going straight across. So taking the time to tug on it with a tool and make it really nice, and then finish it with a liver of sulfur patina or whatever you like, and you have your own multi-strand finding, which you can, of course, change the jig, make it have more holes, less holes, a bigger loop up here to make it a chandelier earring finding. Bring these up. See if I can make it do that. All right, I can't. Here we go. Like this. And maybe flip one of these down and wire it to the other one. Now I'm just kind of creating on the fly here. But can't you see the beginnings of a chandelier earring finding there? So I hope that you take these ideas and run with them and create your own jewelry findings. If you're interested in the supplies I used, you can click on the eye in the upper right, or there's a link in the description box that will bring you to my blog post with a complete supply list with links to products and more information. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Take a look at my Patreon page for how you can get bonus video tutorials for yourself and help support this channel. Thanks for watching. Happy creating. Bye-bye.